Hey besties, bit late in the day for Teach Me Tuesday today, but it's been a long one, a very busy day today. Lots of people need intuition at the moment, which is great, but also quite tiring. So we are going to have a quick think about The Handmaid's Tale and Frankenstein today, which is a popular combined text. Okay, so when we look at the comparison and context texts, and we're thinking specifically about society and science and how we can link. So let's think about the things that they have in common. So both texts kind of function as cautionary tales. They deal with the dangers of unchecked powers, scientific advancement, and societal oppression. And if we think about how we can relate them contextually to what was going on in society at the time. So Frankenstein was written in the wake of the Enlightenment period and early in the Industrial Revolution, and it reflected societal concerns and fears about scientific overreach, that kind of idea of science overtaking God's will, God's plan. And it was a very real fear that we see reflected in other texts of that time period as well, such as Jekyll and Hyde. So we can see here that the things that Mary Shelley was writing about were a true reflection of the fears that were taking place in society. And the same can be said for The Handmaid's Tale. So 1985, it was looking at political extremism, second wave feminism, the dangers of totalitarianism. And we know, obviously I've said this before, that it was written as a speculative piece of fiction. And some of the things that Margaret Atwood was writing about in this terrifying view of the future have very clearly come true and are still taking place in certain areas of the world, as we speak. So it is a very, very real fear, and it was a very real fear in 1985. So when we think about the things that they have in common, warnings about scientific and technological advancement. So Frankenstein warns about this idea of playing God through Victor's unchecked ambition and a failure to take responsibility for his creation, the creature, kind of leaving it to his own devices after this hubris of thinking that he was God. He was everything that science needed. And it took it too far, and then he was unable to deal with the consequences. So we can see how that can be linked to the societal fears at the time. So it's a warning about having faith in reason and scientific progress, but without moral consideration. And The Handmaid's Tale presents a dystopian warning about the misuse of technology and science for social control. For example, forced reproduction, surveillance, the eyes, all of those kind of things. So the comparison there is that while Shelley warns against uncontrolled scientific ambition leading to destruction, Atwood warns against scientific and medical advancements being weaponised by oppressive regimes. So Frankenstein, we have the creature's suffering demonstrating the consequences of social rejection and the dehumanisation of the other. So the novel is warning us fundamentally that with ethical responsibility, there is an ethical responsibility that comes with power, and we have to be able to balance those two things together. And The Handmaid's Tale, we've got Gilead warning against patriarchal oppression, showing how religion and state power can be manipulated to justify subjugation. It's so very relevant still in 2025. So both texts are exploring power imbalances, Victor's dominance over the creature versus the state's dominance over women, and Shelley focusing on scientific hubris, while Atwood is critiquing political and gender oppression. And we're considering as well warnings about the loss of individual agency. So the creature lacks autonomy due to Victor's neglect and society's rejection, and Victor himself becomes trapped by his own ambition. In The Handmaid's Tale, we have Offred's loss of freedom, symbolising the consequences of political and social regression, and the rigid control over women's bodies and language reinforces this warning. So both texts are suggesting a future where individuals are stripped of their autonomy, and that is then leading to suffering and chaos. So many really strong connections between those two texts. I could go on about this for quite a long time, but I won't. So I hope it's helped a little bit and you've managed to take a few notes. Let me know if there's anything you want me to cover in future. Thank you.